Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show, coming to you tonight from the patio of Mad Eats at 76 Main here in downtown Owasso. Except for the Fields of Faith night, this will be our regular meeting place for the Coaches Show. And so we welcome and encourage you to come down and join us. And as you can see, Coach Marley's indulging in some of their fine milkshakes down here. They make some crazy shakes. I don't know if he's going to be able to talk much tonight.
Well, you know what? It's his second one.
I hope my wife isn't watching this.
Well, you know, I heard by trusted source, Mark, that they make some crazy good shakes, but now I can see. I mean, I don't even have to trust him. I can see it. There's lots of room down here for everyone to come down and enjoy the show, so just make sure that you check to see what nights we're on down here, because of Thursday night games, we'll be here on Wednesday night. If it's a Fields of Faith night, we'll be at the field as opposed to here, but every other night we should be down here on a Thursday night. I'm Bill Bush, and I forget my own name here. I'm Bill Bush, and I'm joined here tonight by my right-hand man, Mark Kirk, head coach of the Rejoice Eagles, Brent Marley, and special teams coordinator and safeties coach, Brandon Johnson. And we're here to talk about the blowout victory over, at the time, Class 2A's number 2 ranked Beggs Demons. We kind of took comment section. There's a comment down at the bottom of the screen. If you'll click on that, it'll show you the link to comments. So feel free to do that. Just click on it, send us either a comment or a question, and we'll try to answer it to the best of our ability. You can do it right there on the YouTube channel. Todd Witten, our extraordinary engineer, will make sure that we get those questions. Coach, we talked about a little bit. My goodness, I mean, what a win, and congratulations on a win, and just an absolutely complete domination of, at that time, the highly ranked Beggs Demons, where once again we were able to play a complete game on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it was just a great night, a lot of fun for everybody. Our coaches did such a great job getting the kids prepared. Our kids did such a great job buying in and being ready for the game and being up for it. You know, it didn't take us much to get up for that one. I mean, we had a bad taste in our mouth since last year, and we're so looking forward to that game. I think there's one game on our schedule, as we're working out and lifting all summer and running and 7-on-7s and everything that we do, that we would, you know, circle, so to speak, in our mind and talk about. It was the Beggs game, and that was the one. So just a great moment in time for our program this year, and you know, great non-conference win, as big as it was. Had to remind the boys it was non-conference.
Yeah.
And you know, some coaches, you'll hear some people say glorified scrimmages, but you know, and so now we're on to what really matters and getting into district play tomorrow night. But it was great stance for our program. You know, just to be able to play Beggs. Coach Willis and I went to watch Beggs play Sperry in the 2A state championship at Owasso High School about 4 years ago, and we knew the flirting of us maybe possibly going up to 2A if we had another successful year. And as we were watching Beggs and Sperry, we thought we are 10 years away from being able to compete at that level.
How long ago was that?
That was about 4 years ago.
Well, at that time you may have been, but then there was a kid named Chance Wilson, along with a bunch of others. But
and a lot of work. And
that makes a whole lot of difference. But yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Chance, what a performance he had, completing 19 of 27 passes for 418 yards and 3 touchdowns, rushed 22 times for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. So 6 touchdowns he was accounted for last week or 2 weeks ago. 84 of those yards coming off of a scramble to where he ran down, and, you know, he's just trying to get the first down and ends up in the end zone on an 84-yard scramble. And yet Chance believes he still has yet to play his best game. He told the Tulsa World, I mean, obviously it was a great game. There's just no way you can color code that any other way. But he told the Tulsa World that after watching the game film, that his best game is still out there, that he's still got a lot that he can build on. First of all, if I'm an opponent and I'm reading that after I just read his stats, that's going to worry me a little bit. And do you agree with that assessment? I mean, he had an awful good game.
Well, you know, yeah, and Chance is an incredible athlete. You know, we know what he's done in track and his numbers and all that. And I think if he was sitting here, he'd give give credit to his offensive line. Our offensive line's done a great job this year, giving him time to throw the ball. There are times he likes to just take off, and sometimes he doesn't have to. But we give him the green light to do that because he makes things happen when he does that. And he's got great receivers for Class 2A. He's got so many weapons. And you look at the end of the games that we've had so far, and you look at the stat line, and this kid has 2 catches. This kid has 3. This kid has 2. This kid has 3. This kid has 4. I mean,
Did you read my talking points?
I didn't, but different one. I mean, I think of the first game, how much Solo Morton stepped up at Cashin.
You did read my talking points.
Bryce Rivard has been big the last 2 games, and then Jay's always consistent, and Josh Hendricks is not. His best game's yet to come. I mean, Josh is a great athlete. I think that Jay's best game is yet to come. He's not had his best game yet, and then Camden Ryan and Kale, they'll have a bigger game at wideout, and then it's just a great thing to see with, as far as many weapons we have, and Chance doing what he does with what he's got around him has just been a special thing to watch.
Well, and talking about some of those guys on the offensive side of the ball that had some big games, you had Drevin Reed, just talked about 9 carries, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jay Miller, 5 receptions, 107 yards. Cooper Auschwitz, and we'll talk a little bit about him on the defensive side, but Cooper Auschwitz, 3 receptions for 90 yards.
Just 90 yards.
Just 90 yards.
Yeah.
Just one of the men.
When Coop touches the ball, he almost averages 50 yards.
I know, whether he's intercepted and going the other way or
wherever it's at.
Yeah, Bryce Rivard had 3 receptions for 71 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kale Marley, 3 receptions for 60 yards. Solo Morton, like you said, kind of a quiet night, had 2 receptions, 60 yards. Just 60 yards. That's it. 30-yard
average is all. Yeah.
But what impresses me the most about those stats is, like we said, obviously Chance had a big game. But you look the first 2 games, like you said, Solo had huge games. I mean, it was the Solo Morton show and Chance Wilson for the most part and everything. But then you had guys like, you look at this week, Bryce Rivard, Cooper Auschwitz, Drevin Reed, they're right there to pick up the slack because the teams, they obviously are going to be able to scout. They know who the playmakers are. So if they're shutting down Jay Miller or if they're shutting down Solo Morton, you've got Chance going, okay, that's fine. I can go over here to Bryce, or I can go over here to Kale, or I can go over here to Cooper.
Yep.
So any of those guys can make a play. Do you know that, or have plays called so that whenever you do have a guy that's being shut down that you say, okay, fine, let's call this play? Does Casey have that in his back pocket where he says, all right, we're going to call Bryce's number?
Yeah, we make sure in our turbos we've got every turbo has a primary receiver.
Tell us what a turbo is.
So a turbo it's really our offense this year, and we just have, one-word calls that we're trying to go as fast as we can. And that play call really highlights a specific player. There's a primary read, and then there's a progression that Chance goes through. And to be honest, the way that our offense is ran, when we call a play, there is a primary receiver, but most of the time we don't know what Chance is going to do. And that's not
just because of the RPO.
RPO, it is by design, and so it's not just Chance just do whatever. He's got about 3 things he can do. And he can hand the ball off, he can pull it and throw the outlet, or he can fake it and keep the ball. There's a lot of things he can do in that. Or he can go away from the primary side to throw to and go to the backside.
And then he can just, like you say, run it, and he's as dangerous, if not more so, than any of his playmakers.
Right.
If he's got any space at all around him, he can literally make anything out of it. And I think on that 84-yard scramble, I think I just said, just go down. Just go down so you don't get hurt. And then or you could go ahead and run all the way down there and score a touchdown, either one. But
exactly, yeah. Live to play another game, or another down. So just go down, and make the most out of it.
It's literally, it's almost like the old baseball adage, it's never over till it's over. You got if 1 out left to go, you still got a chance, right? And that's what it really is every time Chance touches the ball.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and once again, and Mark loves talking about this.
The defense,
yes.
It was a great night on defense for sure. They came in and shut everybody down. I guess it should become normal for us now to talk about how great the defense really did. But there were some amazing things that happened. 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions, and then, of course,
his favorite game to play of the game.
A block punt and a score of a TD, right? So things don't happen all the time, but it's becoming kind of commonplace for what we're seeing on this defense.
Well, first off, before I talk about defense, going back to the offense, Coach Willis is a great offense coordinator, and our offensive staff does a great job. And then going to the defensive side, Coach Eckel has done a tremendous job, and Coach Johnson's a big part of that with the secondary. And then, the block punt. There's an amazing stat. But
you lined it out that way, right?
I love
special teams. Yeah.
If you block a punt and score,
Scoop
it's
and score.
a 78% chance you're going to win a game. There's been numbers done on that.
Really?
And so, absolutely. Blocking a punt and scoring is a huge deflator for the other team.
What's the percentage if you block it and you scoop and score? You do it all.
And your lineman.
Well,
And your lineman.
yeah, I know.
You weren't a safety come flying in. It was, Dalton, we'll talk about Dalton here in a minute.
Tremendous job, though. But, yeah, Coach Johnson does an excellent job with special teams. There's 3 phases to a football game. And my guess is most high school teams probably run special teams to have it, whoever 11 is out there, and then they go through it on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And we realize that is a whole nother, it's 1/3 of the ball game. So we go through special teams all throughout the week, and he has a plan, and we're grateful for what he does, and it's showed up already this, in 3 games. Our special teams has made some plays to help us out.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. The way they've stepped up all the way across the board. But, it hadn't been that long ago. Remember we said if there was an Achilles heel for Rejoice, it was on our kickoff coverage. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of problems with that just a couple
3
of
years ago. Yeah.
It was atrocious.
Yeah, I remember when we were down at Kiefer, I think it was, or Kellyville maybe, and we couldn't stop. The best play at that time special teams would probably been to kick it out of bounds and just let them start at the 35.
Well, and the truth of that is that's back when I was in charge of kickoff coverage. So what I did.
Thank you for taking over, Coach Johnson.
I called myself in at the end of the season. I fired myself, and then I went and treated myself to one of these. Anyway, but yeah, no, he's done a great job with it, and I also think that we have more bodies right now in the last couple of years for kickoff coverage and special teams that we were lacking a little bit a few years back, that can run down there and make a play, and that's helped too. But yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I've been watching and just watching all the guys stay in their lanes. They stay home. They make sure they take care of their position first before they start moving towards the ball. And I think that it shows. It makes a big difference in the way they're covering the ball.
So, Coach Johnson, and I know you say you patchworked the special teams together for the most part. What'd you do different than what he was doing?
Well, we had a lot of fast guys. Speed kills. We get down as fast as we can. Come to balance, make a play. This year, not quite as deep as we were last year. So we're still moving around, trying to find that right recipe. But this week should be a little bit better. We're getting some guys healthy, so we get a little bit more depth. We get some more guys that were on last year on that kickoff coverage. Last year was fun kicking off. Well, I want to get back to that, but I think it's going to be good this Friday.
Good.
Yeah, good. No doubt. Everything seems like when it's clicking, and it certainly was clicking last week or 2 weeks ago now.
Got to have a little attitude go down it.
Definitely, and that's the other thing we said on at the Beggs game. You really could kind of feel that emotion out on the field, and for me, especially being a defensive player, there's a lot of emotion and aggression in playing good quality defense. You could really feel that, and you felt it on the special teams too, especially when they blocked that punt.
Yeah.
Dalton, it was an amazing game. Dalton we picked him as our defensive player of the game, and he had a fantastic game. But really, I think the highlight and what really kind of swung the needle was that once in a lifetime kind of experience for a lineman stand and block a punt and then pick it up and run in for a touchdown. Yeah. You as a lineman, you'd kind of dream about that stuff happening, but there it was. There was for him.
I'm going to venture to say that was a historic moment, because I bet if you go back, that's never happened at Rejoice football, to where a lineman has blocked a punt, picked it up, and then gone in and scored. You're looking at Jace. Say, all right, but
I'm looking at the veteran over here that's been around for a while.
I mean, I've watched quite a bit of Rejoice football, through the years, and I certainly don't remember ever being reported on. I mean, so.
What was so cool about that moment too is when you watch back the replay from the huddle camera, you see our student section start going. It's like the bleachers are moving, and then when he gets the bounce on and Dalton actually recovers the punt and runs into the.
He knew what to do with it.
It looked like the bleachers were moving up and down, and you see the kids throwing stuff and going nuts, and just the atmosphere was awesome.
I wish we could have had a cam on Coach Johnson when that happened.
Oh, they did. I was a little happy.
It was good. It was an excellent thing for Dalton. Of course, that was the only good thing he had there. He had 6 tackles, 3 for solo, 2 for loss, and of course, the block kick. But he wasn't the only one that had really good nights on defense, and and we knew we don't get any real-time stats while we're sitting up there doing the game, so everything's kind of the field. But Bill and I are sitting there talking. Cooper had a really good game too.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, he was always around the ball.
12 tackles, I believe it was, and 3
Yeah.
TFLs, 3 sacks.
Yep.
Unbelievable. I mean, it was no brainer for us to give him the gold brick, and I don't think Cooper was real happy with the way he played at Cassia Hall, and we thought he played good. Cooper bad game.
Is that just because he didn't actually knock the guy out on the kickoff, or?
I don't know. There was one play in particular. He was upset. He felt like he missed something, but he came back against Beggs and he played. And the thing is that wasn't an abnormal night for Cooper. Cooper, I felt like played against Beggs like Cooper can play all the time.
Oh my gosh, what a night!
He was definitely in the middle of it, and it's like we were saying, he's got a nose for the ball.
Yep.
He seems to always show up where the ball's at, and then he knows what to do when he gets there.
Right.
I mean, that's the difference. And I really noticed that as well across the board. Open field tackling and a lot of the other fundamentals are definitely spot on.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely spot on. There was quite a few others had really good games on the defensive side. Josh Hendricks, 11 tackles, 10 solo, 1 for loss. Camden Ryan, 11 tackles, 3 solo, and a fumble recovery. Kale Marley, 9 tackles, 7 solo, and a sack. Solo on the defensive side of the ball, 7 tackles, 4 solos, and an interception. Tommy Mulkey had a fumble recovery, and then interceptions by Jay Miller and Peyton Cole. I mean, it was a great night on the defensive side of the ball, shutting down what historically has been a really good offense and TDs. Yeah, no TDs. So I think the way that we really kind of highlighted on him and then shut him down, I think it panned out. Of course, he was really all the offense that they seemed to have that night.
Yeah, no, he's a great player. We keyed on him. The only play, I think he did have the 1 TD, but it wasn't rushing. It was on a screen pass.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We missed some tackles. We actually read the play really well. We just our defensive line, who read it great. Just he's a fast kid. He's got 2 D1 offers, and we couldn't catch him, and he cut back on us. But rushing the ball, the 187 out of 27 carries, I think his long was 18 yards.
Yep.
And that was, that's our whole plan, was just to not let him break us, but to make him earn everything. Coach Eckel really he really wanted some redemption. He really did. He has been storing that game up from last year, and I know it bothered him more than he probably even let on in the office, but I just felt like he had a total release after that game was over, and kind of a welcome to Owasso, I can settle in moment.
But like you said to the Tulsa World, I mean, we scored 70 on them, but they kept their ones in there. So we have to, because if they pulled their ones in the third quarter, you probably pull your ones and get more guys in there. They finally threw the white flag up and said, okay, fine,
Well,
we're not coming back.
No, and I've had so many people ask me, why did we not put in our backups and stuff? And it's really 2 reasons. One, these guys all get ticked off at me when I start subbing and start putting other kids, let's start making, defensive coaches are competitive and they don't want to give up points. But you're right. They had their ones in and were really running several trick plays trying to get down the field on us, and so we felt like if we would have made some changes, they'd have scored 28 points in a matter of just 4 or 5 minutes. We didn't want to win the game 70-49, or 70-35, or whatever.
Make a statement.
We wanted to make a statement, and the defense, the kids wanted to earn it. Offensively, they really wanted to break the school record with points, and we should have scored 2 more times. We were down there inside at the one time,
right?
And then had a block
went the wrong way,
went the wrong direction. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate that we didn't do that. But it wasn't about rubbing it in. Man, those guys look at what they did to us last year.
Yeah.
And they're ranked number 2. And we're not going to let them keep their ones in and start coming back and let that momentum shift.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had to do what we had to do.
Exactly, and like I said, once again, really from the beginning of that game, you got them out of their initial game plan. It was very obvious, and they got into running plays that they weren't really set up to run properly. Kind of the same thing that we saw at Cassia Hall. Right. Just really got them out of their game plan from the very beginning, and then just never could get back on track after that.
No.
And I thought it was just fantastic. And once again, on the defensive side of the ball, I'm always going to be defense to set the tone for the game, and I think they set the tone for that one for sure.
They're a little motivated.
Yeah, how big talking about that on your coverage play, because you do safeties, and how big of a role did our coverage play in those sacks and tackles for loss and interceptions? Because you obviously had good coverage, and that's not their normal way to throw. But if they got nobody to throw to, how big of a deal was that? And the block punt for a TD, like I say, those factors. How big of a factor did that play in the game from that point going on?
Right. We love man. We love playing man-to-man. We're as athletic as anybody we're going to face. We can stick to them, and D-line gets on them. There's nowhere to throw the ball. So those guys just really good job of sticking to them like glue, not giving any opportunities. You can't hold the ball forever back there.
Right.
So defensive line got after them. In a lot of the run game, when they're sitting there with a 20 personnel or 22 personnel, safeties are up in the box. That's Josh had a bunch of tackles because he's reading his keys, so he's another linebacker. You put a tight end in there, well, Josh is a linebacker, so he's fitting great. Him and Jay both, I don't know, they got a ton of tackles this year.
No doubt.
Well, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow night's game here. It's homecoming, which always seems to be a cause of distraction of somewhat. We expect a big crowd. You're going to have all the grandmas and grandpas, and again, like I say, it's homecoming. And by the way, there wasn't an empty seat in the house last week.
It can't get a whole lot more crowded than what it was.
And we can't say enough about the Rejoice fans and how they turn out. I don't care if we're on the road. I think every road game we've still had more fans, but we obviously, when we're home, you guys show up, and tomorrow night, we expect nothing but the same thing. There'll be a lot of alumni there, a lot of family there. With all that pageantry and everything, because you're going to have players involved in the whole homecoming thing. How do you keep them focused and not get caught up in all that?
Well, it's tough. We've talked about it all week, and last year we walked in the parade around campus. It's about a mile. Tomorrow, I wish tomorrow was like today. It's supposed to be, I think, in the 90s again.
Yep.
But we had, I think, 3 turnovers in the first half last year. We were up.
We came out slow. There was no doubt about it.
We were up 14-13 and scored right before halftime to make it 21-13 right before halftime, and it was too close for comfort. Let them hang around, and thankfully we settled in and played a better second half. But those are the things you don't want to do, and so kind of a challenge of what we want to do is how good are we? Let's show it tomorrow night. We have something to prove. Let's go through a parade. Let's go through a homecoming. Let's play the same team. It's week 4. Last year it was week 4. It was Salina at home for homecoming. It's week 4 tomorrow. It's Salina at home for homecoming. We're going to wear the same uniforms. We're going to try to recreate everything exactly the same. They're the same team except for they're a year older. They didn't lose very many people. They brought almost everybody back on both sides of the ball. And they've got a couple new players as well. So they're going to be just as good, if not better, than last year. So let's come out with all the things going on. Let's prove to see how good can we be when we have a day. Because there's going to be days down the road, whether it's fall break or playoffs are different sometimes, or there's times where maybe something happens during school, or there's not school or something. You got to go play, and just be a team that can play great when there's distractions and all of that. Because life brings distractions to you. So not everything's going to be a perfect day of school and just like normal. And so let's go out and see what we can do tomorrow night with all that.
Well, and you mentioned Salina. Mark and I always say this is the second part of the season. Again, like the glorified scrimmage. That's really what it is, because when it comes playoff times, those 3 games don't really matter to play. But now it really starts in earnest. Tomorrow night, you got to start winning district games. You're playing a 2-1 Salina team, and except for a 1-point loss to Quapaw, they'd be 3-0. But more than anything, that they're going to come in wanting to knock you off. You're number 2 in the state. their whole goal is that
It's your homecoming.
Yeah, they're going to play lights out. They're going to lay it all on the line. Yeah, they'd like to spoil homecoming. What do you expect for them to throw at us defensively?
Defensively, they've mixed it up quite a bit, but between man and some zone, they're going to bring pressure. They've brought pressure in every game, and a lot of times they'll bring a double man pressure, and so we've got to be ready for the blitz, zone blitz, different things, pressure off the edge. We've watched film this week and kind of had some plans to try to help fix that and be ready for that. And they're athletic. They hit hard. They're pretty good in the box. They're feisty, and so it's just all the way around. They're one of those teams you don't just look at them and sometimes you try to find Waldo and like, okay, that kid, we're going to pick on that kid. You don't really see a kid that like just stands out as that's a kid we're going to go out and pick on. I think they're a pretty complete, balanced team.
And as far as Coach Johnson, as far as their offense, anything that they do that presents a problem or anything you haven't seen, are they pretty much going to be, are they running the same stuff that they did last year?
Not a lot of the same as last year. Their quarterback's a pretty good athlete. He scrambles around a lot. He makes a lot of plays downfield, extending plays, getting out of pocket. I think he busted one for 68 last game, just getting out of the pocket. So we just got to be smart back there. We're going to just run our stuff as best we can, stay in our zone, stay in our assignments, and make it tougher on him.
And so, besides the quarterback, anybody else that we need to really watch?
They got 2 senior running backs that they run. Good size up front. They got a couple receivers. I think number 22 is back from last year. He's a pretty good athlete out there. So they got kids out there. They definitely hurt us.
Well, good. Well, injury report is Isaac Barnett. You gonna be back tomorrow, or are we gonna wait another week? I mean, he had 2 weeks off. He's not been playing all year. How's he looking?
He's been back practicing, and he's not 100% yet, but I think we're going to give it a go tomorrow night and just kind of break him in slowly. I don't know exactly how much he will play, probably more so on the defensive side of the ball. But anyway, yeah, it's great to have him back.
Right. Another weapon.
Another weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. So besides Isaac, Aiden Wadley's been out. He'll be out tomorrow night, and just thankful for all the people that knew about his situation and prayed for him. He had surgery just yesterday in the hospital for a staph infection in his knee from a turf burn, and but I just went and saw him on my way here, and he's doing great. He's at home. Expect to hopefully have him back next week. That might be 1 week early, but he'll be back. And then, Kandry, of course, is he's hopeful about maybe going. He's going to the doctor this next week about potentially bracing it up and playing. That's up to him and his family. I mean,
playing tomorrow?
No.
Oh,
no.
maybe in the playoffs before the end of the year.
Well, maybe next week.
Oh, wow.
Seriously?
Really?
Yeah. If his meniscus is still intact, you can even with an ACL.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you don't want him to get hurt to where it's does it in for forever.
No.
But I mean, if the doctors clear him, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Being a senior and everything, I'm sure he would love that.
Yep. And him, and then Hunter Hensley, of course, had the ACL, and he's out for the. But beyond those guys, with Hunter and Kandry, we'll see what happens with that. But we're pretty healthy.
Yeah, and once again, great crowd. Like we said, we expect come on out tomorrow night. You will see the greatest show on turf. I guarantee you. You come out tomorrow night, and it's an exciting brand of ball. You'll enjoy it immensely. And again, we're on our quest for a gold ball this year. We got to the semifinals last year. This year we want to be in the finals, and we want to bring that first gold ball back in football back here to rejoice. And so any comments from you guys about tomorrow night before we sign off?
Well, let's rock and roll.
Absolutely.
Well, and as you could hear the cars, we're down here at Mad Eats. We appreciate them letting us use their patio. This is going to be our regular venue, except for Fields of Faith night. And as you can tell, it's right on 76 in Main, and we got a lot of crowd noise here, or a lot of car noise here. But hopefully,
That's okay.
it didn't. It's nice. It was a beautiful night tonight. But we thank you for joining us tonight for the Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show. And don't forget, beginning probably when is the Fields of Faith?
October 12th.
Okay, so other than that, come down and join us again next week down here. There's lots of room, so make sure you come on down. But if you can't, as always, you can always watch it here, and we'll be glad to bring it to you. And if you can't make it out tomorrow night's game, then Mark and I will be happy to bring it to you on this Rejoice Athletics YouTube channel. So come on out for tomorrow night. And so from our wingman Mark Kirk, for Coach Marley and Coach Johnson, and engineer Todd Witten, and filling in Stan Miller over here, filling in for Todd. He had to go to a softball game. His six-year-old, I guess, softball game. That'll be fun. At the control, I'm Bill Bush, and you've been watching the Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show on the Rejoice Athletics TV YouTube channel. Good night, God bless, and go Eagles.